Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Entrare, as Gabriella introduced it, and I am originally from Kyrgyzstan. But these 2 years, I am residing in Budapest. I am doing my master's in social integration. And today here, I'm very happy to be here. And I can understand that for me, like game theory is something new. I am not professional in it, or I don't know a lot, but I will try my best to connect it to culture and especially to immigration, because in my belief, I think that immigration and culture are interconnected, because like when immigration happens, like people from different culture, they come together and there appears like conflict or something like that. And that's why I will be trying to speak about this and how it is interconnected and what kind of problems appear there and how we can solve it. Okay, and we can go. Like how you see from my presentation, I decided to concentrate a bit about what is game theory, because I will be connected it to immigration and to culture. And for myself, I decided that I have to give some insights at the beginning. And first of all, like definition of game theory is that this is the analysis of competitive situations, solutions of conflicts using mathematical models. And it can be like related to any field of our life, like starting from economics, politics, family relations, psychology, sociology, everything. And then we can go further that like what is it about mainly, and it is like fundamentally the study about decision making, and investigations are more concerned with choices and strategies rather than solutions or who win or who didn't. And it seeks to answer the questions, what strategies are there and what kind of solutions are there. And how I mentioned, like there are some examples of like games like chess, economic markets, politics, family relationships. How I mentioned before, this theory can be applied to any field of our life and to any situation. And further, like, yes, I mentioned that there are like psychology, economics, and mathematics, and my presentation will be mostly like focused on psychology and social interaction, social integration. And I guess that you have heard about like classifications of game theory. There are like 2 classifications, zero like zero-sum games and non-zero-sum games. And today in my presentation, I will be mostly focused on zero-sum games, because it's connected to immigration and how like people, how immigrants and host society, they interact with each other and how it is influential to game theory. And a game is said to be zero-sum is when wealth is neither created or destroyed among the players. Like this zero-sum game is when there is no winner. If one wins, the second one loses, and it is the zero-sum game. And a game is said to be non-zero-sum game if wealth may be created or destroyed among the players. Like it is 2 characteristics of the games, and I will be mostly like speaking about the zero-sum games because I found it very interesting, and I found that it's very connected to my topic of immigration and culture between different societies and different people. Yes, and here it's a very funny picture. You can see that like it deals with the general features of competitive situations and who are the players in this situation. Intelligent opponents playing the game strategy. And what is the strategy? Strategy is simple action or predeterminate rule to possible circumstances. And what are the outcomes? Outcomes are gain for players, or at the same time it can be negative, which is lose. And payoff matrix for the player. Player's gain is resulted from each combination of strategies for 2 players. It means that it depends from 2 players what kind of strategies they use while they play the game. And 2-person zero-sum game, a game with 2 players, 1 player equals a loss to others, so that the sum of their winnings equals 0. We can see from the picture that if one gets the ice cream, the second one doesn't get, and it's plus 1, minus 1, and it equals 0. We can see that there is no winners in this type of game. And here, like, it will go like more interesting part. I will be connecting like game theory and immigration and how it is like interconnected between each other. First of all, how I mentioned before, like gains for immigrants, loses for non-immigrants. Social dominance orientation and negative attitudes, further I will be speaking was what is social dominance orientation and how it is related to immigration and game theory, and unwillingness to empower immigrants, unfavorable attitudes towards immigrants from the side of non-immigrants, and zero-sum belief is predictor of attitudes toward immigrants. Here we can see that zero-sum is for example, when one society, host society, accepts immigrants from different countries, or it can be refugees or different cultures, they think that they will lose by accepting them, because it can be economical reason that they will be more competitive in the job market. It can be. Oh, sorry. Okay, it's my speed of speaking. Sorry, I will try. Yes, and it can be social cultural reason. Yes, when people think that their culture, they can lose their culture, because the new culture will be communicating with their culture, and it will be, if there will happen integration or something, they will think that their own cultural uniqueness can be integrated or lost, and that's why they don't want to accept the people from different cultures. And I forgot to mention from the beginning that I concentrated my presentation about situation of Canada and the US, because we know that that countries are more not more, but there are a lot of immigrants, people from different cultures, especially indigenous people, and these countries can be example of multicultural societies, including Canada, the US, and other countries, but these countries are more multicultural societies, and unfortunately more studies were focused on these countries. Even when I'm studying my social integration in my home in my university, we mostly study cases, researches, qualitative, quantitative analysis about these countries, because they were more researchers, more scholars were concentrated on that, unfortunately. And I'm very eager to see the situation in other countries, for example in Asian countries or in Middle East countries, because there are a lot of also immigrants coming to that countries to work, and I really want to know how this host society and immigration are communicating with each other. And that's why today I will be also concentrating on Canada and the US, because I found a very interesting article about connection of zero-sum game and how it took place in Canada and in the US. Okay, and I will go further. Here I would like to talk about zero-sum beliefs in the US. And here we can see that there was a study in the US when people when scholars were examining attitudes of US citizens towards immigrants from the Asia and from the African countries or something like that, from different countries, and it came out that attitude of host society of citizens of the US towards immigrants based on zero-sum belief, because they think that if people come from different countries or cultures, they will be very competitive in the job market, they will take their job places, and they will be somehow taking the cultural uniqueness of that country. And it was it was investigated in the two countries, in the two societies, and the scholars were telling that zero-sum belief games play a huge role in that societies when it comes to accepting immigrants, trying to integrate or something like this. And according to my studies, I could tell that for people, for host society, it's very, very important to know that some immigrants want to assimilate. They want them to accept their culture of host society and become the part of that culture. And they don't want them to practice their own culture, their own beliefs, even their own language, because it's threat for them, it's threat for their culture, and that's why they want to keep them assimilated. But if culture, if people from different cultures, they don't want to assimilate, they will be there like factors of out group, because we know that in like psychology, in social sciences, there are like understanding of out group and in group. When you think that you are part of host society, and the people who are coming from different cultures, from different countries, they are out group and they cannot belong to your like society, because they are not part of that historically, and they are not part of that by blood, because some like societies believe that like you can be part of that culture just like if you got inherited it by your blood. And unfortunately, like that kind of like cases and studies are still like in our culture, in our societies. And here like 3 important components of prejudice. How I mentioned before, like there are like a lot of prejudice like from host society towards immigrants, because they are like out group and they are not part of the society, and they're like, you know, like non-immigrants, they believe that like they are different, and that's why like it can be indicator of emotions like towards the groups, and it's not positive. It could be like always negative, but sometimes there are good practices when like some percentage of host societies they would like to accept, and they are doing like good like attitude towards immigrants. And stereotypes, characteristics one would use to describe the group. We know that there are a lot of stereotypes that like related to one culture. Like I cannot tell, but for example, in the US, I have studied a research that for Asian like students coming from China, coming from Japan, coming from Korea, they think that they are very smart. They think that they are very like they study a lot, and that's why like the host society, they feel themselves they're like, you know, competitiveness, because they think that these like smart Asian like students will take their job places, they will achieve more, and that's why there is this competitive like attitudes. But I cannot tell that it's like I cannot overgeneralize it, because like there were just some studies that proved that actually like American students, they're a bit afraid or threatened by like Asian smart students, because they're smart and they don't accept it. They don't want them to use their smartness in their host society, in their country, because when it comes to job market, when it comes to reaching some level in their like social class, it will be like competitive, and that's why they don't like it. And symbolic beliefs, one's perception of the values, customs, and traditions of the group. I mentioned before that host society don't accept most times the values and the beliefs, the like religion of different cultures, of different like countries. And for example, we know that nowadays like Muslim religion, unfortunately, is like related to terrorism, is related to, I don't know, violence, that like Muslim men like are violent and they don't like give proper attitude towards their like wife, woman or daughter. But it's not true, since I am coming from this culture, from this religion. Like Kyrgyzstan is Muslim country, and our religion is like, we are Muslims, and almost like 90% of the country are Muslim, but still we perceive ourselves as a secular country. We are very open for different religions, and we have churches in our country. We are not very strict in this religion, like comparing to other countries from Middle East or from somewhere where like you have to wear like your scarf or everything. But for Kyrgyzstan, for like most Central Asian countries, we are very open for different like religions, and we try to accept it. We try to show that like Muslim religion, it's not about violence, but also like we have these different like types of being good and not violent and something like that. And here we can see that like willingness for interaction, it depends like what kind of like role plays zero-sum beliefs, because it was also taken, like this example was taken from the US, and how they like what kind of attitude do they have towards Asian immigration and towards like black immigration. And we could see that zero-sum beliefs plays a huge role in this part, because like it goes to attitudes toward immigration, and it's not positive, it's negative. And ethnic prejudice, it also goes like zero-sum belief is the like core center of this attitudes towards immigrants, which are negative, which are not acceptable, and something like that. And we can also see that attitude towards black immigration is the same. How I mentioned before, this classification of game theory, like zero-sum belief, plays a huge role in immigration and in social integration between different cultures and different people. And the results supported our hypothesis as shown in figure 1. Social dominance orientation was strongly related to zero-sum beliefs for Asians and blacks, and this zero-sum belief strongly predicted attitudes toward the immigration of Asians and blacks to the United States. We could see that it's very interconnected, and unfortunately, I was trying to find more literature, more researches on that field, especially on connection of game theory and immigration, or zero-sum beliefs and immigration or culture, but I couldn't find a lot. And even I was approaching my professors, I was approaching everyone in my university if they could help me with finding this kind of case studies, researches, more that I can give you more extended visions. But unfortunately, there was not. Even my professors were telling me, oh, that's a interesting approach, and why did it came to your mind? Did it come to your mind? And I was like, I'm going to attend the conference and I will be speaking about this. And they were like, oh, it's so interesting. When you come back, could you tell me the results? What did you find out? And I was like, okay, how I can find out if you are not giving me any I don't know, scientific research or any theoretical framework that can I base my research mostly or better. But I could say that it's not the end of my research. I'm now, thanks to Gabriella, really interested in this topic, and I want to go further. I want to research it more, and maybe next year I will come from the yeah, my research. I will send you my research. And here, I told before, that I will be speaking about social dominance orientation, and now I will go further to what does it mean, social dominance orientation, and what is it. Social dominance theory assumes that people who are strongly identified with high status groups and who see intergroup relations in terms of group competition will be especially prejudiced and discriminatory towards outgroups. I will explain it by myself, that social dominance theory is about when people who are coming from high social class, they have more prejudice and stereotypes towards immigrants, refugees, or people from different cultures, because they tend to believe that this hierarchy is very important, and they don't want to give up their places. They don't want anyone to reach that point, and that's why they want to keep it, and it leads to more prejudices, more stereotypes. But people who are coming from lower social economic class, they are not so much they don't have so much prejudices and stereotypes towards people from different cultures or different backgrounds, beliefs, or something like that. And yes, and individuals high on a measure of individual difference in social dominance orientation believe that unequal social outcomes and social hierarchies are appropriate, and therefore support an equal distribution of resources among groups, often in ways that benefit their own group. I mentioned before, that they want benefits for their own group, and they don't want to accept out group, or they don't want to share their own benefits from for people from different cultures or from different backgrounds. And because of this desire for unequal outcomes, we hypothesized that people higher in social dominance orientation would be more likely to see immigrants as competing for resources with non-immigrants, and that's why they will not accept them at all. And here I would like to go to the conclusion of this, what I was speaking about, taking together the findings described in this section and the previous section revealed that perceived group competition, whether situationally induced or a function of chronic belief in zero-sum relations among groups, is strongly implicated in negative attitudes towards immigrants and immigration. We have demonstrated that media presentations of the success of immigrants in a difficult economic market can induce perceptions of competition with immigrants and thus lead to unfavorable immigration attitudes. And also, social domination orientation leads to more unfavorable attitudes towards immigrants. And here I would like to say an example of Hungary, where I'm now studying and living. And I could say that like it is also dependent from the history of the country, from the political political approach of the country, because we know that like the Prime Minister of Hungary doesn't want to accept any refugees, and they are not eager even to accept immigrants. Even we are ourselves, like as a student of the country, we are also like somehow not accepted by the society. When you go to the bus or when you go to the market, you could feel that they are not like favorable towards us. And even when we speak English, when we approach them in English, they speak like back in Hungarian, even if they could speak English, because they see us as a threat that we will dominate their like Hungarian language, and we will like take their jobs, or we will be more like we will be highly skilled. And that's the reason that they don't want us accept like immigrants or refugees. And the like second reason is mainly it comes from the approach of the Prime Minister, because like he says that like Hungary is for Hungarians, like we don't need any refugees, we don't need any like immigrants, because like they will make a threat to our societies, they will change us, they will change our like I don't know beliefs, our traditions. And that's why there is like coming this kind of like unfavorable attitudes towards immigrants and towards refugees, and they don't even want to accept it. They always tell that Hungary for Hungarians, and it comes first time from the like political party that in the lead of the country. And nowadays the situation is getting not better but worse. We know that Hungary didn't accept like refugees during the refugee crisis in European Union countries, and it is still the same. Like they are closing their borders, and they have very bad attitude towards Muslim people, towards people like in scarf, or towards people like coward people, because we are different, because like they could feel that we are different, that we are outgroup, that we can be like competitive. Do I speak fast?
No, dicevo che non hai bisogno, non c'è nessuno che... Ah sì,
Okay, and yeah, they can see that like here also occurs like zero-sum beliefs in like this kind of country, where I can be the like witness of this situation, because they see that even like when we go like to work or to do something, like even Hungarians, we have some situations when they were complaining like, you foreigners, you come to our country, and because of you like the prices is getting higher, and before you started interviewing our country, like the prices for rental, the prices for products, the prices for everything were lower, and you came and you have changed everything. Even like we have the situation when they told it to our face, when we wanted to rent the apartment or something, they were telling that it's because of you now we have this kind of problems. And here we could see that like they really believe that immigrants are like causing these economical problems, we are causing them these social problems, we are causing them threat that they could lose their own identity, which is Hungarian. Like, and yeah, it's like unbelievable that in this globalization world nothing is changing, and even it's getting worse and worse. I could say the example of Hungary nowadays, because for now I am living there for second year, and I couldn't still feel myself accepted. I couldn't feel that my difference, like my facial features, it's not acceptable still. And when I go somewhere, I still feel like this kind of stereotypes, prejudices, and this unfavorable attitude. And yes, and this was like example of Hungary. And the article that I was reading, there was like recommendations that could lead to better like cases or better attitude towards like immigrants or refugees. And first of all, like it was that we can reduce the competition between immigrants and non-immigrants. And there was I don't know how to say, there was a practice when like people, like when scholars, they were like trying to include citizens of the country by making this kind of editorial readings. And there was like somehow like readings when like citizens of the country, they were making this kind of like, they were giving the speech and they were reading about this. And in this speech there were written that like, while immigrants come to the country, to our country, they are making benefit, they are making economical growth to the like to your country, and they are still like helping us to grow. And like this kind of like editorial readings, it helped somehow to reduce this kind of prejudices, stereotypes, but not so much. It was a bit like helping, but not a good, still like a perfect practice to like to reduce this problem. And yes, and here we can see that like low social dominance orientation and high social dominance orientation, I have told you already about this, but it is just in numbers that like low social dominance, we can see the numbers that like neutral mostly, and then like high social dominance orientation, attitudes toward immigrants, it is like higher than low social dominance orientation. And positive messages, even like in this like low social orientation, it's like higher. We can see that it's like 2.13 like 1.40, and when it comes like high social dominance, it's like less, like 1 and 0.62, and not zero sum. It's like for like low social dominance orientation, we could see that it is higher, and for high social dominance orientation, it is lower. And even these like statistics, these numbers can tell us what is the attitude of like what is the role of these zero-sum beliefs in these immigration policies, or people of like attitude of non-immigrants towards immigrants. Yes, and here were more ways like to improve attitudes of immigrants towards attitudes of non-immigrants towards immigrants. And it was like messages promoting a common in-group identity. These messages are certainly compatible with national perceptions of Canada and the United States as being built on immigration or nations of immigration, because we know that these countries are not like, they don't have this pure like national identity. They were built by immigration, then they are immigrants, and I cannot still understand why they divide this like non-immigrants and immigrants, because that country is like historically are immigrants, and it was built by immigration. And yeah, multiculturalism, we are speaking a lot about this. It could be also a good practice to improve these like issues. And awareness, of course, like maybe some cultural evenings, or maybe this kind of garden that like we were speaking yesterday, where like different cultures, like even like I think it should start from childhood. It should start from the attitude of their parents towards to Asians or towards to people from different cultures. If they would say, even like in Hungary, we know that there are a lot of Roma people, and they are like residing in Hungary like from a lot of time like ago. Yeah, it's like their history is connected, but still like the like Hungarian parents, they tend to say to their kids, okay, be careful of Roma, they can rob you or they can do something to you. And that's why it starts from childhood, that parents are promoting this kind of attitude. But if like there could be good practices, even I told before that this kind of garden where like people from like Hungarians, Roma, or different people come together, play together, cook together, and it starts from the childhood, that people can integrate, that they could think that they are equal, they could like be the same, and there is no difference on race or on your belief or on language. And more, yeah, I told more culture and more open immigration policies. I mentioned before the example of Hungary, and there are a lot of examples of different countries which have these strict policies and which like say that like no immigration, or even if they accept the like immigrants or refugees, they have very strict policies that makes it very difficult. And identify similarity and dissimilarity of immigrants and non-immigrants. Like I think this case was mostly like focused on similarity, because like identifying more similarity and telling how, yeah, I'm finishing, and telling like how much like we are the same, how much like similarities we have. I hope that it could help more like to be acceptable or to be tolerant towards like different people or non-immigrants. Yes, and how I told before, like since I'm studying integration, I think that like social integration is the best way to solve this problem and to be integrated, not assimilated, because like the people of different, like the culture of different, if the culture of different people will be respected, accepted, then it will happen like this integration, and people will feel that even if they are in different host society, they are like, they could feel that they are valuable, they are respected, and it will lead that they will accept the culture of like host society, but at the same time they have to save own customs, own culture, because it's part of their identity. For example, like I came to Europe and I still accept the cultures, everything, but at the same time I want to keep what is in me. It's like part of my identity, my culture, my religion, everything. Yes, and thank you very much. I hope I was not so long, and yeah.
Io propongo, siccome siamo un po' tardi, che siccome c'è una seconda relazione che ha esattamente lo stesso titolo della relazione di come si chiama? Come ti chiami? Non mi ricordo mai. Aichurok. Aichurok, va bene. E di dare subito la parola a Marcin Piekarkiewicz, che terrà la sua relazione come la teoria dei giochi spiega la cultura. E poi vediamo se fare il dibattito insieme oppure dare la parola anche al nostro amico.
Mi legge
È formattato per Mac?
No.
Ok.
No, madonna.
Posso darti una mano?
Non ce l'ho sul...
Ah,
sulla
si deve... Mando una mail. Ti mando un SMS.
Ah, ecco.
Hello everyone. I will continue the topic on the relationship between game theory, actually how game theory can explain cultural behavior, but through economic behavior, because the two are very much related. So the first question is, how can game theory explain economic behavior of individuals? And this is pretty much straightforward, because that was the reason why game theory was invented, to explain economic behavior of individuals or of other economic actors like consumers, producers, and government as well. And then through the first question I'll answer the second one, how economic behavior of individuals relates to culture, because nowadays when you think about consumerism or materialistic values, the two are inseparable, economic and cultural behavior. So I like to start my presentations, because I am an economist, by explaining what is economics in one line. It's it's about two things: the confrontation of scarce resources that we have, time, land, fresh air, and unlimited ones. That's our human nature, that we always want more and more. And that's why we have economists to deal with this problem, because you cannot satisfy limited wants with limited resources. Just in an easy way, you have to find a way. So the keyword of economics is choice. How to use scarce resources to satisfy unlimited wants. That's, if you are ever asked what is one word for economics, choice. Choice. How to. So this is Paul Krugman, Nobel Prize in Economics, and he has this very important phrase about efficient use of resources. So what we just said, efficient meaning that you can actually try to satisfy those unlimited needs with as much as possible with the limited resources. So he said that you might imagine that the efficient use of resources has something to do with money, maybe because it is measured in dollar and cent terms. That's how economists think. But in economics, as in life, money is only a means to other ends. And the measure that economists really care about, or at least they originally cared about, is not money, but happiness. So, that's the term I'm gonna talk about later. So, originally economists, satisfying needs, it's by per se can be understood as your life satisfaction or job satisfaction or any other satisfaction with your life domain, and that's very close related to happiness. So that was the idea, to satisfy those needs with limited resources. But how can you measure that? And the economists originally, including Adam Smith, they didn't know how to measure that. So they invented the measure that is money. Welfare equal to economic welfare, monetary welfare. That's why we ended up, I think, in where we are. So in this not perfect capitalist world. But the good news is, I hope it's not too late, is that you can nowadays measure very easily happiness, and you don't have to use money to measure how happy or how satisfied a person is with his or her life. Because you can ask people about their happiness. You can ask them in official socioeconomic surveys. You can ask them on social media. You can ask them on the street. You can ask people. This is the European Social Survey question. It's worldwide, European-wide socioeconomic study of around 30 countries for already, I think, 20 years. Taking all things together, how happy would you say you are? From 0 to 10. You have a number you can measure. And this is, I don't have time to explain why this measure is actually reliable, but it is. You may think about what weather can impact the answer to this question, or a bad day. But on average, this, if you look at the big numbers, this measure is reliable because it relates to objective circumstances of life. So unemployed people will actually say that they are less happy. That's quite an obvious thing, but this is how we can actually measure that this thing is good. And it relates to objective, also physical circumstances. So people who are happier, there have been experiments of people who in which people who are happier, they actually they were observed in a laboratory circumstances, and they have more genuine smiles per day than people who say that they are unhappy. Genuine smile is the smile that is spontaneous. It's called Duchenne smile. It's a French, I don't know from which century, French biologist that observed that if you smile in a fake way, and if you smile in a nice way, there's a difference, and you can actually observe and rely and say which smile is fake and which is not. Anyway, this measure is reliable, you can believe me. So, This is Richard Easterlin, and in 1974 he used this measure in the States to actually formulate his famous paradox, Easterlin paradox. So he found that income and happiness are positively correlated in a moment of time, because of course, if you look at the results of those questions in rich countries, they are on average happier. But changes of income and happiness in time are not correlated at all. So this is the paradox. So you have this in a moment of time, but why it doesn't translate to trends, to evolution of the two variables. So this is the first statement, that income and happiness are positively correlated in a moment of time. You will see this is the average happiness level per country, and this is GDP per capita in 2003. You'll see here with a very high level of happiness countries, Scandinavian countries, Japan, other European countries as well. And here you'll see poorer countries or developing countries. It's a fact. You cannot. Of course, there is a lot more determinants of happiness, non-monetary as well. But it's a fact. But this is the States. This is still Richard Easterlin. So it's from the 40s to the 90s. So is it 50 years, right? Sorry. 50 years of research. This is the percentage of people who declare to be very happy. It's stable, it even decreased. And this is the GDP per head in the States. So what the hell? If it's positively correlated, why doesn't it translate to trends? So, one of the explanations of the paradox was, and now I'm getting closer to game theory and interactions between people, finally, social comparisons. Social comparisons is this. So, this boy was still satisfied with his ice cream, but he saw a bigger ice cream, and he's not satisfied with what she was satisfied with just 30 seconds before. Using the ice cream metaphor, we tend to focus on not what we actually need, but what other people have. This is social comparisons, keeping up to the Jones. Even Karl Marx talked about social comparisons in 1840s, I think, 1840s. He was saying that you can still be satisfied with your quite nice house, as long as there is no bigger house in the neighborhood than yours. Yeah, keeping up to the Jones, it's a phrase in English just to say that you're still trying to catch up economically with your neighbors. In English, still there's a saying that the grass on the other side is always greener, but not in your garden. So, because of course what the neighbor has is always, it's brighter, it's nicer. So, enough of graphs. Let's look at data again. Again, European Social Survey. In 2003, they asked nearly 22,000 individuals in 25 countries about how important is it for you to compare your income with other people's incomes. And there was a scale from 0 to 6. Not at all important, very important. Nearly 50% of people, they declared that those income comparisons are important. 45%. But still, this is just, maybe they are good for happiness to income comparisons. This is just saying that it's 45% people saying they are important. But the same study, here is the level of importance of income comparisons. Low importance, I don't care about neighbors of my income, and here I care a lot. And here is the share of people in each group, 1, 2, 3, who felt depressed in the last 4 weeks This is the study in 2006. So, among the people who don't care about income comparisons, you get 1/3 people who felt depressed in the last 4 weeks. And among those who who think that income comparisons are very, very important, almost 50% felt depressed in the last 4 weeks. So this game of status, that's the name, income comparisons can be seen as positional goods game or a game of status. They do affect your happiness, your, even in this case, the feeling of being depressed. An experiment that was done in Sweden and Japan and US. Where would you like to live? You have 2 cities. X, you earn $1,900 or euro per month, and the others earn a bit more, $2,300 or euro per month. The other city, you earn $1,700 per month, and the others $1,300 per month. And the rest being equal, the same cities, same quality of life, the same traffic, the same environment, same hours worked. So here, you're basically earning in city X, in city X you would earn more than city Y, but in city Y you earn more than, let's do it like the city Y. You earn less than in city X, but you earn more than the others. You know what was the result of this experiment? Where people wanted to leave? X or Y? This is my mistake. This is Y. This is 75% of people wanted to leave in the city when they earn less in absolute terms, but they earn more than others in the other city. Can you explain this? Is it rational behavior? Because in economics, everything in neoclassical economics, which is what we have now, everything is based on the assumption of homo economicus that makes rational decisions. Is this decision rational to earn less just because you can earn more than the others? No. There is a psychological mechanism behind it. This mechanism of keeping up to the Jones, of being higher on the income rank than the others. So, as we have seen, income comparisons, they may translate into irrational choices, like choosing to earn less, but to have more than the others. And those irrational choices, if you think about, at the beginning I said about use of resources in economics, think about time as well. That's our most precious resource, time. And these irrational choices, in the long run, will translate into inefficient allocation of resources. Why? Because in order to keep up to the Jones, you may, as an economic agent, choose to work more, and this is particularly, I'm thinking about the US, as the average number of hours worked per week is close to 50. So it's doing 10 hours per day or more. I had a colleague who was a consultant in San Francisco, and he was doing 60 hours per week or even more. So he only had a couple of hours on Sunday to rest. And no 10 days of leave per year. And of holidays. I mean, I think it's a bit different than in Europe. So you can choose to keep up to the Jones, to work more in order to earn more than the others, but it will translate to poor work-life balance and ultimately into unhappiness or job dissatisfaction. So why the hell are we doing this? Can game theory explain this? Zero-sum game? Game of status? If I go up on the income rank, someone has to go down, because income rank is, it's a ladder. From here to here, if I go up, someone falls down. Yeah, game theory I think the most interesting concept, the basic concept in game theory is the prisoner's dilemma. Why two completely rational individuals, that's the assumption, but we know that they are not, might not cooperate even if it appears that it is in their best interest to do so? Why? So you have these two prisoners that are caught, two members of a gang that are caught in the same day, and they are separated immediately, and they cannot communicate with each other. And if they both do not confess, they'll just get 1 year of prison each for some minor aspects of the crimes they did together. But if both of them confess, so they will be charged with bigger charges for the same crime, but they were acting together, so they will have a 5-year sentence. In these two scenarios, only one of them confesses and the other is let go, because then the one who is confessing and saying that the other did the crime is let go, and then the other is going to prison for 20 years. So, of course, the most efficient solution for both of them is choosing not to confess. So they can just collaborate and say, we didn't do it, and they get 1 year. But of course, both will confess, and it will get 5 years, and this is less efficient than this for them, because 5 years is more time in jail than 1 year. Why? Why they do not cooperate? Because the information is just not complete between them. They cannot communicate, so they do not know if the other person will cooperate, simply because they don't think the other person has genuine interest to cooperate. And that's now going back to work-life balance. Can you link prisoner's dilemma to work-life balance and the choice of hours worked in the States? If we, hypothetically, this is happening already in Europe, by the way, in Sweden, there are experiments on reducing hours of work per week, 6 per day in Gothenburg, in one of the hospitals. It's happening, but in the States it will never happen. So let's have a collective agreement on reducing hours worked. Everyone agrees, tomorrow I'm just working 20% less. Okay? So everyone will earn 20% less. It's on average, of course, if you think about the lowest income groups, 20% less, it's a lot. Let's think about the middle income groups, because as economists I like to talk about the averages. So everyone tomorrow earns less 20%. So relatively, nothing changes, because we just said that happiness depends on relative income, on income rank. On the income rank, everyone is the same place. No one goes up, no one goes down. So the income rank doesn't change, happiness should not be affected. But we have better work-life balance. We have 20% more time to dedicate, to spend with our families, with our friends, maybe to dedicate to activities that we always wanted to do, but because we work 50 hours a week, we cannot do them. But again, thinking about the prisoner's dilemma, if I reduce working hours tomorrow by 20%, I will go down on the income rank. And if others don't do the same, I will lose. Relatively, I will be lower on the income ladder. Well, that's the reason why I think it will not happen, but it must be an institutional action, government action from above, like the experiments in Sweden. That's why we need institutions, and that's why we need governments, by the way. Game theory, we can see how it explains, how it can be used to explain income comparisons, games of status, positional games, zero-sum game, again, income rank. It's a pure example of zero-sum game of stages. But now thinking about culture, so how economic behavior is related to culture. I'm not a sociologist, I'm an economist, but I think that culture is mostly about values. If anyone agrees, then I will be happy to discuss, because I never seen a definition of culture. But for me, it's about values. Materialistic values are very closely related to income comparisons, because one is boosting the other. Because if you participate in this positional race, in this game of status of keeping up to the Jones, of course the importance of materialistic values in your life is increasing. And when it comes to values, I think the link to culture is straightforward. And especially if you think about the states and consumerism and materialistic culture that has been developed there throughout their economic history. Thank you. I will be more than happy to answer your questions. Thank you. Harry? Anyone? There's one here.
I think that happiness is a very special concept. Everyone has their own concept. I want to ask you as an economist, what is your concept about happiness? Could you tell me?
Okay, so I need an hour. Now, I've done PhD in happiness studies, and I still do it, so mostly after hours, after work. But I had a Buddhist friend on my PhD, a guy from India. We were colleagues, really good friends. And he just asked me, do you really need all those research to, discover what happiness is about? I mean, because for him, for many people, it's quite straightforward. And I didn't reply because I knew that the answer was no, we don't need that research. Maybe we needed to convince the policymakers. And then he said, for me, happiness is work and love. That's it. In work, it means that you are satisfied with your working conditions, with your financial situation, work-life balance. And love just means that you're satisfied with your intimate relationships, with your friends. That's it.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Okay, thank you for your presentation. It was very interesting. I really enjoyed it, and I want just to give an example of this cooperation. You were mentioning how it is important and what would have happened if people will cooperate more, or how it is important. And it just reminded me that recently I was participating in one training, and then there were our trainer who divided us into two groups, and there was one orange, and she gave us she told us you are two groups, you are competitors, and the winner will be who will get the orange. And we were playing and throwing the orange to our teammates, and we were conquering with each other just to get that orange. And at the end, our trainer asked us, why didn't you cooperate? Why didn't you ask each other? Why do you need this orange? Because at the end it came out that for us, from the beginning, we needed the skin of the orange because we wanted to make some decorations. But for another team, it came out that they wanted to make a juice from the inside of the orange. And she was telling, could you see how it is important to cooperate before starting something or before doing something? And I just guess that it could be a good example for this, that if people will learn to cooperate, then the life will be even better or easier for them and for us or for everyone. Because when we have some conflict or when we make some decisions, there is always lack of cooperation, and it leads to more conflicts, to more problems. And yeah, I just wanted to relate this example and how I have learned that in my life, in future, it will be very important to ask just before starting some conversation or conflict, or before making some decision, okay, like, let's cooperate, let's ask what do you want, what I want. And at the end, it came out that we want the same, like the same for us and for them. And that's why it's really important to cooperate. And we would see from here that like it plays a huge role. Thank you.
Just thank you very much. Yeah, it's a very good example. It's about, I think in the experiment you've been doing, the problem was just lack of communication. Probably you were not allowed to communicate, right, in the experiment. So yeah, in the small settings, it's an obvious solution that you should communicate, and maybe you have different goals and you can cooperate and both achieve them. But in the institutional settings, economic settings, a collective agreement is always at risk of, if someone will be the free rider, will automatically gain from that, and the others will lose. And only with good institutions and government intervention you can actually secure the deal, that no one will say no, I'm not included in the end. Yeah, so it's a very good example. And one comment to your presentation as well, because often with immigration, it is the case what you read in the newspapers that that they are coming to steal jobs and things like this, and it's a very, very it's a one-line story, right? But if you go deep into the economic problems that we are facing, we are aging societies. We are not going to be able to cover the budget for pensions for the next generations, because the number of people in productive age is decreasing like hell. In Poland, we have 1.2 kids per couple on average. It means that in 20 years, we're going to have 25-30% less of the population in productive age. So who is going to, thinking economically, because of course the cultural contribution of immigration is just beautiful, but economically they are very, very useful for the economy. Only if they can actually, as long as the government will give them a chance to be economically included, meaning if you can legally work, you can actually economically contribute to the system. But if you have no chance to work legally, first of all, you will not contribute by taxes, and second of all, you will be frustrated and you will end up in being excluded, and that's not the way it should be. Thank you.
Io voglio fare una domanda che forse è proprio stupida, però secondo me c'è qualcosa dentro. Tu hai sempre parlato di comparazione, cioè le persone si confrontano le une con le altre. Non hai mai parlato di competizione. E dalla comparazione alla competizione c'è, secondo me, un bel salto di qualità. Come si mette questa cosa all'interno di questa teoria dei giochi, che significa qualcosa per l'organizzazione totale dell'economia come fatto culturale, tra l'altro, perché tu hai detto che si passa dal comportamento economico, deve essere pensato come comportamento culturale, e lo capisco, se c'è il confronto lì è il comportamento culturale, però la competizione è un'altra cosa, non è culturale, è qualche altra cosa, cioè fa parte di un'altra cultura, mi sembra. Ecco, mi sembra che questo aspetto dovrebbe essere un po' meglio esplicitato, cioè io vorrei che mi si esplicitasse.
The competition, I think it's purely economic concept, because it's less cultural definitely than comparisons. But ideally, I mean, if you have, because of the income comparisons and the keeping up to the Jones and the game of status, I mean, it all ends up in competing with the others in different occasions, but I think mostly on the job market. And it's economically, it may be perceived as efficient, because economists would say that competition brings innovation, brings more productivity, blah blah blah. But it's not it doesn't have to be, and we know it's not sustainable from the cultural or social point of view, and also ecological point of view. So I would say competition is a purely economic concept, but it's very closely related to income, social comparisons in general. I think it's one is the reason for the other. So because we compare naturally, it's our since ages, it's our natural mechanism to communicate with the others, to compare with the others. So because we do that, and we will strive to be higher on the income ladder than the neighbors, then it becomes competition. But comparisons as such, they are not bad, because it's a source of information. But the problem is, the question is what you do with that information. I may compare always to the poorest people, say, Jesus, I'm lucky. But usually the comparisons are upward. People will tend to compare to the rich, to the richer. So, yeah. I don't know if it explains.
Io avrei un'altra domanda, ma dobbiamo dare la parola a lui perché altrimenti non ha più tempo per parlare. Però la domanda era questa, io la pongo lo stesso, poi magari ne parleremo dopo. Cioè, adesso tu hai parlato di game, quindi teoria dei giochi come game. Tu pensi che, questa è la domanda, poi non so se puoi rispondermi in 2 parole perché dobbiamo dare la parola a lui, tu pensi che, usando invece che la parola game, una teoria dei giochi che si fondi sull'idea dei player, possa essere più vicina all'economia della felicità, cioè che l'economia della felicità, quella che tu chiami, preveda dei player, mentre l'altro tipo di economia, quella dei competitors, quelli che non semplicemente si confrontano, ma proprio si mettono sia game, questo così, no, perché questa economia della felicità va bene, io ho letto tante cose tue su questa economia della felicità, però c'è sempre qualcosa che mi rimane volatile. Cioè, cioè non arrivo a capire, tu stesso quando ti sei chiesto che cos'è la felicità, appunto sì, come si calcola la felicità, e quindi si tratta di fare dei calcoli su posizioni soggettive, e quindi il problema di organizzare un mondo di relazioni su posizioni unicamente soggettive è estremamente complesso, cioè non vedo la possibilità di organizzare un mondo, a meno che non si finisca poi con l'andare nel game. Cioè, mi sembra che il passaggio dal confronto alla competizione sia così scontato che alla fine si ritorna ad un tipo di economia che non è poi della felicità, perché la competizione non dà felicità. Questo è un po' il dubbio, no, che mi viene e che mi è venuto anche ascoltando la tua relazione oggi. Adesso lasciamo la parola naturalmente al nostro amico Gerardo Escudero Samara, che ci parla di imprenditori e start-up innovative.
Hello, my name is Gerardo. First of all, Gabriella, thank you very much for making me part of this. Thank you all for being here. I want to start my presentation asking you something. Do you truly believe that dreams come true? I'm going to leave you with this question through the presentation. Well, if there's any formula and there's any secret to be successful? It is. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to let the best athlete in the world explain to you guys. Excuse me.
Do you need double the screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have to do the video.
You don't need this black. It's an audio.
It's a video.
That depends on the computer. You have the video in a folder, in the presentation folder.
It is in the presentation, actually.
Yeah, you have to, when you put a video in a presentation, you have to be a folder where the original video is
No,
put.
but it is inserted in the presentation. Well, it doesn't matter. I'm going to improvise a little.
I think
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter.
it could not work.
Okay, basically the secret that I was going to show you is that in order to be successful, in order to achieve anything you want in life, you need to have a fail-forward mentality. If you have a fail-forward mentality, you learn from your failures, from your mistakes. You react quickly, and you come stronger. You try harder. And for example, we all knew this when we were born. For example, how do we learn to walk as a babies? We fell like thousands of times until we could finally stand up and learn to walk. So this is how to achieve the things you really want in life. There's no other way. Okay, I'm going to show you some great inventions that some people had through history and changed how we see mankind nowadays. These are the Wright brothers. They invented the airplane. They did 150 tries, and because they believed that human beings could fly. And thanks to them, I'm here. Well, another great invention was the light bulb. The commercial light bulb was invented by Thomas Edison in 1879. And if you see, nowadays, light bulbs are no much different than they were. Why? Because it was a great invention. It has these characteristics. For example, it was a low cost availability. It was easy to implement in any system. It was a low voltage operations. And it was very small that you could save in any place whenever you buy them. The compass. Do you imagine how human beings could explore the unknown without having this compass that let them discover these new worlds? We wouldn't be here right now. This was the clock, the first mechanical clock that was invented in 725 before Christ. Okay. This was the first mechanical computer. It used punch cards as to metric the formulas. This was the punch cards, and the people that used it, they had to do it manually. The telegraph. This is how the communication, the long distance communications were invented. This was an idea that introduced the Morse code. Nowadays, we can make long distance calls thanks to this invention. Do you know what is the greatest invention in mankind? It was the vaccines. Without the vaccines, before vaccines, life expectancy was 40 years. Just 500 million deaths were registered just because of smallpox alone. So what is innovation? Innovation is the process of converting new ideas, new knowledge into new products or services. Look, in this world, you need to understand something. The market is never static. So you need to, startups to compete, they need to be able to adapt to technological trends and changes involving rapidly growth, expansion, and upgrades. What is the goal? Of course, we want to find solutions to global challenges and create job opportunities. These are three very important focus that startups should focus on. First one, being creative. Create new appearances, counter the process. Being inventive, learning to break the schemes and create something new. Being innovative. Look for unique and creative ways to market a new product or service. This is a very, very important example of how startups can differentiate from their competitors. This is called the golden circle. This circle represents why, the why, this one the how, and this one the what. Okay, I'm going to put a specific example, like Apple. Do you know why Apple, how are they different from their competitors? Why do people buy Apple? Why are Apple the most valuable company in the world? Because they know how to explain their why. The other competitors don't even know how to communicate efficiently why they do it. Why they do it, it is not the result. Don't get confused about it. It's not about, I want to do this because I want to get profit, I want to be a millionaire. The why is what drives you in, is what inspires people. If Apple were like the, if Apple was like the other companies, they will communicate the brand like this. We make great computers. They are beautifully designed and user-friendly. Want to buy one? But this is how Apple actually does it. They start from within. We believe that in everything we do, they say, we believe in challenging the status quo and thinking differently. How we make products that are beautifully designed and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? This is the formula they had nowadays, since they started, to communicate the brand and make Apple one of the most successful companies in the history. I'm going to explain a little of my background. I'm a 27-year-old entrepreneur. I have founded 7 startups. I'm from Nicaragua. I was going to show you some other videos, but okay. Right now I'm in the restaurants industry. I have 2 in Nicaragua, which I want to make an international franchise. It is called Chill Out Lounge. I'm going to explain a little bit about my business. First, I'm going to show you. Now it works. I don't know why.
Sì, le luci.
Surprise the face, talks about the people going under. that what he goes there for is to unlock the door. Well, those around him criticize and sleep. Through a fractal on a breaking wall, I see you, my friend, and touch your face again. Miracles will happen as we dream.
Imagine yourself that you wake up in the morning, you turn off the alarm clock, take a shower, get dressed, have some breakfast, and go to your work from 9 to 5. Then you come back from your work, eat dinner, go to bed, and wake up the next day in the morning to live the same living by the clock routine over and over again. What do you want? What do you need? You need new experiences. So you go to this beautiful, modern, and cozy place where a host kindly receives you and takes you to her table. While you are there, you ask for the menu. He or she says, it's in your pocket. So you reach out your pocket and realize that with a few clicks, you can place your order from your smartphone. Then you look up at the stage and see a band playing a very well-known song. That puts you in the mood. Behind the band, there is a curtain that is scrolling up, and Freddie Mercury comes out. And you cannot believe what you're looking at, and you may be wondering if you may have fallen asleep while you were there. Well, it is not a dream. And what you're looking at, it's a 4K, real life-size Freddie Mercury's hologram, playing along with real flesh and bone artists in a high-technology restaurant, where you can also find digital menus, optical illusion doors, water walls, smart LED lighting, that automatically changes color every 18 hours, so clients have different experiences with every visit. This is Chill Out Lounge, a family high-technology restaurant that offers new experiences and a variety of dishes from all over the world. We segment our clients according to their taste and preference in music. We have 24 live music concerts a month. For example, in a jazz concert, our client's demographic will be 40 to 60 years old. But in a rock concert, there will be around 25 to 35 years old. And what about a romantic acoustic session? You will find couples holding hands, singing songs to their loved ones. We use a very powerful and efficient target marketing strategy to reach to our clients, and we focus on making them happy, allowing them to become the heroes of their own stories by bringing them new experiences. I have been doing this since 2014, and as I told you, my dream is to go global. So Chill Out is more than just a restaurant, it's an experience platform. I did this to explain to you how to communicate a brand, how to be innovative, creative, and inventive in order to differentiate from your competitors and survive in a market that every day is changing. You need to adapt over time to changes and technological trends. And how do you do that? First, you need to know your why, and second, you need to use two very important things in the startups, innovation and technology. You have to grow, you have to change in order to survive. Now, the question I told you about, do you really think that dreams come true? Since I was a kid, I was always wanting to be part of this show, Shark Tank. I was always, every Sunday, looking for the new episodes. Damon John was my idol. And last year, he presented me as one of the 20 top young entrepreneurs by the IFA, the International Franchise Association. With my business, I have won 13 global competitions from around the world. And I missed one. I'm going to show you how the holograms thing work. This is there are two people here. One of them is a hologram. The other one is the real singer. Okay, the real hologram is one in red. The other one is lightened in blue. It doesn't look very good through the computer, but it's lightened on blue just people get confused because holograms for us, for the pop culture, is those blue things that appear in Star Wars.
We are all familiar.
This is how holograms work.
As you see now, beaming onto the relay. We are all familiar with front projection, as you see now, beaming onto the relay screens here. Rear projection too, which works like this. Front and rear screens in eyeliner setups are known as primary or bounce screens. Eyeliner takes these basic principles and adds to it a special 3-layered polymetric foil, just 25/1000ths of an inch thick. The foil is tensioned across all or part of a stage at a 45-degree angle, like so. This allows the projector and primary bounce screen to move into a vertical formation like so. For smaller spaces, the projectors can be configured with mirrors to elongate the projection path and maintain picture integrity. Eyeliner displays ideally require a minimum footprint of 10 feet square and a height of 9 feet to show full-size human figures. What you are seeing is a reflected image which is so true and realistic to the original, it has become known as a virtual image. Many people perceive what they are seeing now as a 3D hologram. In fact, it is a 21st century take on a mid-19th century visual effect known as Pepper's Ghost, showing now on the relay screens. Thanks in part to the amazing optical properties of the eyeliner foil, combined with the light and picture output of Christie Digital high-definition projectors, the image has depth and opacity that actually supersedes the scale and definition of traditional 3D holograms.
So this is my presentation. My approach, my perspective is a little different from yours. I'm an entrepreneur, but connecting to this theme, I would say that don't stop playing, don't stop being creative. Dreams do come true. Thank you.
Domande per questa presentazione che è anche un po', quasi un po' uno spot. Quando veniamo in Nicaragua verremo...
Sì.
When we...
Not only in Nicaragua, there are 7 restaurants. In Nicaragua.
No, I have founded 7 startups in total.
Ah, okay.
I have 2 restaurants.
Ah, okay.
The other 5 startups I failed.
Ah, okay.
Nelle start-up. Bene, la start-up è una delle parole chiave dell'economia giovane di adesso, quindi start-up digitale, ma anche... ci sono allora domande? Dunque siamo passati veramente in un territorio completamente diverso qui, però per me rimane questo tema della felicità, no? Perché allora tu dici, la felicità per me è avere un buon lavoro che mi soddisfa, cioè ho domandato, avere un buon lavoro e avere una ragazza.
No.
Tu hai dato questa risposta?
No, non ho risposto così, era più
sì, no,
questo è piattato.
Sì, ho piantato, però insomma alla fine questo hai detto.
No, ho detto relationships and job.
Relationships and job. Va bene, le relazioni. Allora, e questo che cos'è? Non è relationships. Cioè, nella misura in cui tu, vabbè, appiattato o meno appiattato, più ampliato o meno ampliato, ma perché il problema è veramente grosso, proprio dal punto di vista della riorganizzazione delle discipline, in ultima analisi, cioè il rapporto dell'economia con la cultura. La teoria dei giochi, secondo me, ha questo, che mette in relazione, quindi è molto importante lo spunto che ha dato la nostra amica, che mette in rapporto l'economia con la cultura. E la tua economia della felicità ovviamente è anche questo. Però alla fine bisogna capire quale cultura, cioè non so se riesco a rendere la mia idea, perché altrimenti anche questa è cultura, ci possono essere altre culture, felicità, ci possono essere altre culture. Allora è così semplice, è così appiattato alla fine, appiattito. Mi sembra veramente una soluzione troppo semplice. Mentre in lei tutto il discorso sull'immigrazione era molto interessante, tra l'altro io non capivo neanche perfettamente bene questa zero sum, come funzionasse a livello di rapporto con l'immigrazione, di soluzione o di non soluzione dei problemi dell'immigrazione. Quindi mi sembra che voi avete affrontato dei problemi molto grossi, però non mi è chiaro come questi problemi riescano ad essere perlomeno inquadrati verso una risposta di ciò che verso cui l'economia, come fatto culturale, tende o può tendere. Ecco, non ho avvertito all'interno di queste relazioni, ho avvertito una grande tensione, però non ho avvertito elementi concreti attraverso i quali appunto la teoria dei giochi può aiutare a trasformare in qualche modo l'economia, tra l'altro impostando tutto un discorso sul rapporto tra comparazione di status, che è poi il fatto culturale per eccellenza, lo status, e invece lo scontro fra competitors. Ecco, questo può darsi che dipenda semplicemente dal fatto che io non so quasi nulla di economia in senso stretto, quindi so una serie di cose, di come si è costruita una certa visione dell'economico, però dalle vostre relazioni mi sono venute molte sollecitazioni, molti desideri di comprensione, ma non vedo chiaramente che cosa ne esca. Io direi che adesso noi, che ore sono?
Io devo lasciare.
Tu ci lasci?
Sì.
Allora lasci giù?
Sì.
Bravo.
Vi ringrazio a tutti di essere presenti, non ci vediamo perché io vado in viaggio, per cui ci vediamo l'anno prossimo, spero. Grazie mille, grazie.
Bella schermo.
Sì,
Ha detto che lo lascia giù, che lascia giù il suo perché è più piccolo, vediamo, il suo è più piccolo, dice. No, il suo è piccolo, ha detto. Dunque sono le 12:54, 1-5, quindi in effetti non abbiamo tempo. Would you like to say something? No? E rimango un po' così, magari oggi pomeriggio parleremo ancora. Sì, certo.
I don't know if I understood the question, but the doubt. What is the consequence, right?
Sono dubbi, la sensazione di non avere. La sensazione di non avere un quadro in cui i singoli elementi si adattano l'uno con l'altro, si mettono in rapporto l'uno con l'altro, e che come se si prendesse per la tangente qualche elemento, gli si desse maggiore forza, e però si dimentica tutto il resto. Ecco, questa è un po' l'impressione.
Non ancora, ma non ancora. Di solito i pezzi poi si mettono insieme.
Sì, può darsi. Comunque abbiamo avuto 3 relazioni su questa, diciamo, relativi all'economico, molto diverse l'una dall'altra, specialmente la sua molto diversa dalla sua, però appunto ho l'impressione che non ci sia stata questa, che non ci sia una capacità di entrare con delle categorie chiare, con delle modalità anche metodologiche ben definite. Capisco che per te non può essere vero perché tu sei uno studioso di queste cose, però qui mi è mancato.
Okay, so the methodological aspects, they are quite straight, they are robust. They are, I mean, I don't know if it's the question about methodological aspect or about the consequence or what can we do with this knowledge on a policy level. Is it about methodology or is... So what about methodology? What is the question?
La questione è che non vedo una coerenza all'interno del discorso in rapporto con le categorie che usi. Mi sembra che le categorie che usi siano delle categorie troppo deboli per costruire un discorso. Ad esempio la felicità. La felicità, come tu la rappresenti, mi sembra una categoria debole rispetto al discorso che vuoi costruirci sopra, o che gli economisti della felicità ci costruiscono sopra. Bene?
I understand now. So there is a concern about the methodological aspect and about if measurements of happiness are robust or reliable. One of the great things about happiness economics is that you don't tell people, you don't impose a definition on happiness on people. You ask them how happy they are, and you relate that to objective circumstances of their life. If they meet friends, if they are satisfied with their job, if they live in a clean environment. So first good thing is that you do not impose the definition. You find the definition of happiness afterwards. You just look what is the correlation, statistically speaking, between the answers to this happiness question. It can be a question about happiness, life satisfaction, job satisfaction, and other life domains, satisfaction of the relationships. So that's the first good thing. Second good thing is that as a measure, happiness, and it's being used by Eurostat. They have the Statistical Office of the European Union. They have a biannual report on quality of life, and they include indicators, subjective indicators like happiness and life satisfaction. So I think if Eurostat is doing it, a statistical office for EU is using happiness questions to give indicators on quality of life in Europe, I found it reliable. There is a World Happiness Report that is published by mostly University of Vancouver, but it's a very famous report. They use the same questions as indicators on how well a country is doing on on happiness, it's called subjective well-being, on subjective aspects of life. Now, happiness as such, as a measure, is reliable for 2 reasons. First of all, it corresponds to other to objective measure of well-being. So, as I said, people with health problems, this is objective, would definitely score lower on happiness and life satisfaction questions. People with psychological distress, people who, as I said, mentioned before, the unemployed people, they will still score lower. That's the first thing. Second thing, it also relates to physical indicators. As I said, there's been an experiment in the US in a kind of fake experimental environment, but people have been on constant observation. So there were cameras everywhere, and they were interacting. There was like simulation of life, and there is a way to recognize if a smile is there was a French scholar who was explaining how to. There is a special muscle in your face that is used only when the smile is genuine. If it's fake, this muscle doesn't activate. So by looking through cameras, you can recognize. You have a board of researchers who will literally go through tapes, hours of recording to recognize how many genuine smiles a person made per day. You can count, this person made 20 genuine smiles per day and the other 5 because maybe the smiles were fake. And then they will ask the same people about their happiness on paper. How happy are you on 0 to 10? And those who had more genuine smiles, objectively measured, calculated, scored highly on happiness questions. There is, I wish I had a slide on that. I have, but it's on my computer. Happiness scores from questions is also related to brain activity. So there are people, again, monitor, it's physical, it's objective, monitoring your brain activity. You have areas responsible for negative emotions and for positive emotions. And people who would say during the questionnaire that they are happy with their life or satisfied with their jobs, and on the same time when they are replying the questionnaire, their brain is monitored. You have the part of the brain who are responsible for positive emotions were activated. And people who say that they are unhappy, they mean it because their brain activates the parts of it which are responsible for negative emotions. How it's reliable as a measure. I don't know if it answers your concern. This is a methodological aspect. Now, if you want to make something of it, a policy or you said a quadro, so like institutional framework, it's all about collective actions, as we mentioned, and it's all about the government securing that collective actions takes place, institutions. So if you do not create an environment, and work conditions that would allow people to have more time for interacting with friends and family, you have to regulate that hours of work. Because in capitalism, an open market with no limits, sky is the limit. You can work 70 hours per week. Maybe you really like it, but I think in most of the cases people are just forced to do it to make the ends meet. So, but it's all about institutions. Scandinavia. These are 5 the most happiest countries in the world. Sweden, Finland, Norway, Denmark, Iceland. And guess what? They have the highest taxes in the world. Why? Because taxes will reduce economic inequality, and inequalities are bad for average happiness because they create tensions, they create social incohesion, I don't know what's the... So they destroy the social cohesion. Inequalities, they boost up income comparisons. The more income inequality in a country, the more people will compete because it's more profitable to be on the top of the income ladder. So it's institutional, of course, culture. I think institutions, so rules of the game on the market can create culture. So if you were brought, in Sweden there is no grades in school, in primary school, there's no grades. No, I got 30 lode, io 18, oh, loser. No. There is no grades in Sweden. In primary school, kids are brought up without the idea of being 5/4, 30 over 18. There is no, I was better, I got 5, you got 4. No. There is a educational system from, it's called Waldorf School. I forgot the guy's name. And Monterossi is another example. You start with kindergarten and primary school, and you don't grade people. But these are private schools, because the market knows that there is a need. But you would never see in Poland a public school with this approach. But why not? I mean, in Sweden they can have it. In Sweden there is no advertisement It's illegal to make an advertisement for kids, to buy whatever crap they buy when they go to the supermarket and ask their parents to buy them something because they've seen it on the advertisement. It's illegal to advertise on kids. If there's no institutions, this whole talk is just dreams. But I don't want to be just a dream. I want to be an achievable goal, and you can only achieve it with good institutions. So rules of the game, government intervention. I'm a socialist. I'm not a communist because I come from Poland. Communism is a problematic word in Poland, still. But it's all about the government, the institutions, rules of the game.
Hai una posizione proprio contraria a quella mia. Una posizione assolutamente contraria. Very good, certo, avremmo da parlare molto perché avremmo da comprenderci anche molto, perché non ho capito tutto quello che tu proponi, evidentemente come tu non comprendi tutto quello che io penso, ma non perché dovremmo parlarne di più, perché dovremmo analizzare di più e quindi avremo modo di farlo in altri tempi, perché poi adesso questo lo dico prima di andare a pranzo, questo incontro non si esaurisce qui, cioè se voi mi mandate i vostri completi, perché avevate mandato sì dei paper, però non erano quelli che poi avete letto qui, quindi se voi mi mandate i vostri paper noi poi cercheremo di rielaborarli, di tornarci su, tutti potremmo tornarci su, quindi non solamente io ma tutti quanti, li metteremo magari nel sito del centro, magari in un'area riservata, se non volete pubblicarli ancora, li mettiamo in un'area riservata con una password che abbiamo solamente noi e tutti quanti potremo continuare la riflessione, quindi quello che non è stato chiaro oppure quello che io stessa poi cerco di veicolare tutti gli interventi verso alcune cose piuttosto che altre, ma in un secondo momento potremo appunto lavorarci sopra. Di Marco.
The microphone.
Yeah, it was. No, actually, it was to Martin. The experiment that you mentioned about people's smiles and noticing when it's fake, and also the experiment that the Russian girl who was not able to come mentioned before. They reminded me of a very famous film which came out in 1994. Jim Carrey, I think, the Truman Show, and in which there is this man, Truman Burbank, who unknowingly is the victim of a practical joke because he is unknowingly the star of a reality show watching all over the world, and one day a reflector falls from the sky, actually, and he begins to notice fake things, fake smiles, fake phrases, and he begins to notice that the world is a stage practically around him. So I don't know what you can make of it to the purpose of our actual discussion right now.
Yeah, I actually love the film. Yeah, but it reminds of a show that we as consumers on the market and people who compare to the others, we are all in. I mean, I hope not all, but most of the people, they would believe that they are in a kind of a show and they always have to shine with their car or watch or dress. So it reminds me of people who are actually conscious about that, because he didn't know. And people who engage in the positional race of consumption and showing off would participate in this kind of artificial show just to be better, or better in economic terms, so richer than the others. But I don't know why. You tell me, I don't know.